Cage Minds. We got the Mean Machine with us, Steve Garcia, Bellator 151. How you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling good, man. Thanks for having me.
We got, it's been a while. You've been having problems with the consistency. New year. What's the new mindset and the new hopes for staying busy?
No, I talked to Bellator. They told me that they would keep me busy, at least trying to get me 3 fights a year as long as I stay healthy. So that's the goal for sure. I want to make sure that every single fight I'm 100% healthy. That's definitely a main goal, I think, for all of us. But I think we're going to find great success in this year, and we're just going to climb that ladder. That's the plan. That's the goal. You know, and I'm going to take this far.
Off camera, you mentioned been quite a few opponent changes. Nothing new for you, but does it ever get frustrating at a point that you just hope the first guy will just, you know, the matchup will stay?
Yeah, it makes it 10 times easier. If we can keep one opponent the whole entire camp, that makes my life 10 times easier. But regardless, I'm always working on myself. I'm always trying to get better. So that at the end of the day is what matters. But I have switched up my training opponents, you know, who I work with more or less, depending on the style that I'm getting ready to fight against. So, you know, we had one that was really, had strong wrestling, actually was really just good at mixing things up, and we have different guys in here that they do really good at that. And then we had a guy that just really was a power shooter, and then he pulled out. So now we got a guy that's, you know, very quick, very active, stays very busy. So now I have a different opponent for that. So, you know, it does change things up a little bit, but not a whole lot, because I can't go in there and focus so much about him. I just really have to go in there and worry about my abilities.
And then Ricky, he comes from, I believe it was a Taekwondo background and then wrestling, and he's been with Gracie, with Team Gracie for a while, and then you let me know that he's with Alpha Male. Right. So with that whole mix of wrestling and kicks, what are you expecting to come out after you? I saw some of his fights. I think that he's a well-rounded athlete, but I think that him going to Alpha Male will definitely be a benefit for him, just because there are monsters over there. But you know what? There's monsters here at JacksonWink. We're the #1 gym in the world, and I have a feeling, you know, it's not going to be a good night for him. Actually, I kind of know it's not going to be a good night for him. So I trained really hard for this fight. I train hard just like for all my fights. You know, regardless if they're, you know, a champion or not. I'm trying to be a champion, so I got to learn how to train like one. To act like one. Seeing another undefeated fighter, you know, that name across from you, people are talking, someone's O's got to go. Does that add any extra little kind of motivation to it, something special about that kind of
really.
matchup?
I've been fighting a ton of undefeated fighters. I fight 4-1, 5-0, you know, 6-0, 5-1. It doesn't matter. The record really doesn't matter. I fought guys that are 26-7, and I'll knock them out in 45 seconds. You know, it's happened. I've proven it. All that matters is the hard work that goes down to the gym.
So I'm about 5'7". I believe that's what Ricky's about. And you're like a monster towering over me. So how entertaining is that, you working with, of course, your gigantic always reach advantage? No,
it's definitely a blessing for me. I like it. It definitely gives me an advantage as far as the stand-up war. You know, it does have its pros and its cons. You know what I mean? A lot of space when you're on the ground, but it's not something I've never been used to. I've been this height for a while, so. You know, I'm used to it. You know, I'm blessed with abilities and my height and, you know, my striking and just different things. So, you know, just trying to make the best of it.
We've talked about wanting to stay busier. Also for Bellator, there'd be that want for you then to get up towards one of these main cards. You're a top 5 ranked contender. When do you see that coming? I mean, it's pretty strange that you're in the top 5 contenders, and yet I bet the mainstream audience is like Steve Garcia, unless they saw your knockouts of the year on YouTube.
Right. So this is probably my last fight on the contract. So we're probably going to sit down and renegotiate after this fight. I plan on making a statement in this fight just for that reason as well. But we'll see. You know, I've talked to Coach Wink. I've talked to, you know, my dad and a few different people that have really taken care of me, you know, in this camp and throughout my fighting career. So we're gonna decide what we're gonna do. We want to see what they have to offer, because we are gonna sit down with Coker and Richard Cho and all these guys that are the deciding factor of, you know, how much you make, how many fights you're gonna get, and your climb up the ladder. So. You know, we'll see. I want all options. I'm 23 years old. I still have a lot to grow. But nobody's going to stop me. So.
Have you thought about how different of a market it is now if you were in this position a year ago as compared to now? Benson Henderson, Aljamain Sterling. It's a free agency market now. This rivals the NFL and other pro sports leagues, what MMA is doing. So what does that do for you as a businessman being in this kind of position?
It's very interesting because everybody wants to be in the UFC, and I like both organizations. I have so many buddies that freaking they fight, UFC every single week practically, it seems like, and they're great. But I hear a lot of complaints about like the sponsorships, and I hear a lot of different, I hear the pros and cons of it, But me being in Bellator, I do get the benefit of being able to have sponsors on my shorts and on my banner, to even have one in the cage. And it helps me, but I think it also helps, the local communities and also these companies, because I feel like the companies, Venom and all these guys, they have to figure out a new route to market their gear. And I feel like them going to Bellator or WSOF or something like that is going to be huge for a lot of these fighters that are also coming up, because UFC is not the only organization now, and I feel Ben Henderson and, I know that they were talking about over him, but I know he's re-signed with UFC. But a lot of these guys that are coming over to Bellator, I feel like, man, it's gonna make it a changes the ball game.
And then changing the ball game, Bellator kickboxing.
Yeah.
Bellator's talked about they're going to give their fighters the flexibility, whether it's the ring or the cage, to stay active. Right. So how's that sound? Pique your interest?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I started my career off kickboxing. I went 4-0, 5-0 as a kickboxer. So it's not something I'm very. When I'm training or when I'm fighting, I really have a mindset. If I'm doing MMA, I'm just doing MMA. If anything, I found a redirecting, sport, it would be probably boxing. Kickboxing, it was something I used to love enjoying and stuff, but, I don't know, I really love the mixed martial arts aspect. I can take to the ground. There's so many different options, so I really focusing on the mixed martial arts aspect of it.
As we're doing this interview this Friday, your division spotlighted Bellator 150, the title fight. You got a prediction for us on who's going to be the champion that you're going after?
I have respect for both those guys. Both those guys are very talented. They're very skilled athletes and fighters. They definitely have fighter hearts. And I look at both of them. I see them having their benefits on different sides. I see Gaval having more power, more strength in this bout, but I see Dantas winning with more of his variety of striking, and then he's just very elusive in there. And I think that he's gonna retain his title by Friday.
So we got a new champion, because I believe Dantas is actually he's the challenger right this time.
Yeah, Galva is champion, and I'm not taking anything away from the guy. I mean, they're both really good, but I just think that Dantas,
I put you on the spot totally.
Yeah. I think Dantas is actually gonna string out the win.
And then same night as you, how much do you have your eyes on that main event? Darian Caldwell and Joe Warren.
After this fight, as long as everything's good and I don't break a hand or something like that, I'm gonna be front row looking at these guys, because I have a feeling we're gonna be lining up here pretty quick. I met both of them. I met Caldwell for the first time my last fight, and really cool guy. You know what I mean? We talked and stuff, and I had no idea that he was actually ranked above me and all this stuff. I had no idea. But he was a very cool guy. He fought Sean Bonch, and I'm like, well, I kind of fought that guy a couple fights ago, and that's why I didn't think much of it. But I've seen some of his fights, and he's a talented fighter. And then you compare him to Joe Warren. Joe Warren's been in the game for a while, but he is just really one-sided on his game, and I feel like he's no longer the exciting fighter that one he used to be, but he just doesn't bring much to the table besides his grit. He grinds you, and he's stringing out these wins that way. I don't know. We'll see. It's funny because I'm hearing mixed views of it. But I think Caldwell's the underdog. I want to see this underdog, rise above and get the W.
The Mean Machine, you've been a knockout machine so far in your pro career. Is that what you see coming?
Absolutely. I think that I'll be putting him away very soon. I wouldn't want to say I have a prediction, but I have a feeling, he's going to be very frustrated with my movement. He's going to be very frustrated with the power that I bring, just like most of my opponents do. I just know that it's not going to be good enough for him. He's going to be a world of hurt, and you know, I'm sorry he's going to be at the end of it, because he does seem like a good kid. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but you know, I see some of his interviews, and he just seems like a good kid. You know, he's just trying to climb the ladder just like I was, and I'm gonna go in there and fight. But I see him also the way I came up when I first fought Sean Barnes. You know, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna prove a statement, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, no matter who's in front of me, I'm gonna win. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fight to win. And I feel like Holly too. Holly did the same thing with Ronda. She's like, I'm not gonna go in there I'm gonna give it a shot. You know, she's like, I'm gonna go in there and do whatever I can to win. And that's me every single fight. So I have a feeling, you know, he's gonna do the same thing. They want to be in that spotlight. They want to be in Bellator. They want to be at the next level. And that's why I always have to prepare as hard as I can, because I was there once.
Mentally, physically, you've had a while to grow since the last fight. Where do you feel you've been able to grow the most?
I feel like, honestly, just being more tested at a higher level. Being here at JacksonWinx. You know, I'm going over here with Cub Swanson. I'm going with John Dotson. I'm going with Landon Veneta. I'm going with a lot of these guys that are just really good. And I just feel like I fit in here comfortably because I can compete with those guys, and I get to step in this cage and on the cage on March 4th and be more confident because these guys push me. You know, Tom the Fire Kid, you know, he's a Bama champ. He's fighting for actually at 135 title. Me and him, we get it pretty good. And then Jamor, he just fought for the WSOF fight. I want to say last Friday. I felt like he got robbed, but the guy's wrestling's off the charts, and then he's
that was a horrible decision.
It was a horrible decision. I feel like I don't know what the judges were watching, but that was not the right decision. You know, but you know what? He's a very talented fighter as well, and all these guys they're around my weight, so I'm like, dude, I'm hanging with these guys. I'm testing these guys. They're testing me, and I love it because I know that these guys, you know, John Dawson's #2 in the world, and I'm like, dude, me and him, we get it good, you know. So it gives me more confidence. And really, I feel like when you're training at a top tier level and you want to get to a top tier level, you need it. You know, iron sharpens iron. I mean, I know that that's kind of, everybody says that, but you know, it's true. It's true. These guys are so good, and if you can be part of that, you know, be good as them, and then strive to be better, because we're always trying to get better. That's what makes a difference.
A couple weeks ago, Fighters Only Awards, JacksonWinx Gym of the Year, right?
Yes, sir.
What did that mean to you, hearing something like that, being like, wow, look at, you know, the team I'm a part of, just the whole thing?
Right, and making the transition to JacksonWinx. That was one thing that, like, me and my dad also talked about. You know, it was more like, because I almost made a move to California just because I have another job for now, and I'm here. I mean, we have JacksonWink in our backyard, the best gym in the world. You know what I mean? Or I can go somewhere else where I don't have my family, I don't have all this stuff. And I've always cross-trained here, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to give this a chance. I talked to Coach Wink, and he says, we'd love to have you. And, you know, I came part of the team, and, man, they've treated me so good. They've welcomed me with open arms, and it's never been better. You know, I trained here with Coach Chad Smith, and then we got so many fights March 4th. I don't know. I don't think Coach Wink's going to be able to make it to my fight, but, you know, Diego's fighting, Holly's fighting, we got Landon Veneta fighting, we have myself fighting, and then we also have local card fighting, I believe, or somewhere. And I'm like, gosh, man, we almost don't have enough coaches because there's so many of our fighters that are fighting. You know what I mean? But you know what? I get so much attention in here by these guys. I mean, I just had an awesome, you know, mid-session with Coach Wink just a while ago. And, you know, I'm so blessed, man. God's really laid out everything for me, you know, best gym in the world. I have, you know, a heart of a lion, man. I go in there and I put on a fight for everybody. It's not just for myself, but for these fans, you know, that they're the ones that I fight for, you know. You know, that's the reason why I go out there, you know. God gets me through all the stuff, you know, what they can do it too, you know, and that's what I feel.
After Bellator 151, we expect to see Steve Garcia on a much bigger stage. I got to thank you for the time. Who'd you got to shout out to?
I want to give a shout out. Always the God. That's #1. You got to be. But of course, my dad, my family, my coaches, Coach Wink, Coach Chad, Coach Greg, and everybody else here that has helped me with all my training partners. And then I also want to give a shout out to my sponsors. Let's see if I can remember them all. Unleash Sports Nutrition, SMI Facility Services. I got Virus. I have Security and Access Systems, OSM, Upstairs, Elite. And then I actually got a new one that's actually coming on board. It's called Nerum. It's like a new mental health thing. I haven't tried it yet, but you know what? It seems like it's an awesome product. And then I want to say that's all of it right now. I don't know. SMI Facility Service. I don't know if I said that. But you know what? All these guys helped me. I'm sorry if I forget. But JacksonWink Gym, everybody here. So thank you so much, and you as well, sir.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks, sir.